Captain Veltar pressed his blue hands against the smooth control panel and felt his ship dying around him. The gentle current had been beautiful once, with walls that glowed soft green and corridors filled with the sweet music his people loved. Now sparks flew from broken systems and the air tasted of burned metal. "How many more can we save?" he asked his medical officer. 43 are badly hurt, Captain. We lost 17 in the last attack." The young Zephyrian's skin flickered with sad purple patterns. "Our healing chambers are not working well anymore." Veltar closed his eyes. His people were peaceful traders and explorers. They built ships for beauty, not war. Their hulls were made of living crystal that could heal small damage, but not the terrible wounds the Krovic weapons had torn in them. 3 days ago, the Krovic war fleet had found them near the dead system of Kepler 442. Veltar had tried to explain that they were just passing through, carrying art and music to trade with other peaceful worlds. The Krovic war master had laughed and started shooting. The Zephyrians had run. Their ship was fast, but the Krovic vessels were faster. Each time the gentle current tried to escape, the enemy caught up and attacked again. They wanted the ship intact so they could take the crew alive? "Zephyrians make good slaves," the Krovic said. Their small size and clever hands were useful in mines and factories. "Captain, the engines are failing," reported his pilot. "We have maybe 2 hours before they stop working completely." Through the main window, Veltar could see the Krovic ships in the distance. 15 massive warships, each one 3 times larger than his vessel. They were not hurrying now. They knew the gentle current could not escape anymore. "Sir, what do we do?" asked his communication officer. Her name was Lyra, and she was very young. This was her first trip away from their homeworld, Veltar thought. Hard. His people had rules about asking for help. They never wanted to bring danger to others. But his crew was going to die or become slaves if he did nothing. Send out a distress call, he decided. Use all the peaceful species channels. Maybe someone can help us. Lyra's fingers moved quickly over her controls. The quantum communicator was one of the few systems still working properly. It could send messages across many light years in just minutes. What should I say, Captain? Tell them who we are and where we are. Tell them we need help to escape. Tell them about the Krovic ships. Veltar paused. And tell them we have civilians on board. Families with children. The message went out into space, traveling faster than light to reach dozens of star systems. Veltar knew most species would not be able to help. The galaxy was mostly full of peaceful peoples like his own. They had scientists and artists and philosophers, but not many soldiers. The first answer came from the Thornians. They were plant-like beings who lived in giant tree ships. "We feel sad for your trouble," their message said. "But we have no weapons and no fast ships. We will remember your people in our songs." More answers arrived. The Depths Dwellers said they were too far away. The Crystal Singers offered to send healers, but that would take weeks. The Quiet Ones just sent sympathy. Each message was kind, but useless. Veltar watched the Krovic ships getting closer. He could see their dark hulls and the red lights that marked their weapon ports. In an hour, maybe less, they would be close enough to board his ship. "Captain, there is one more message," Lyra said. Her voice was strange. "It is from a place called Terra. I have never heard of this world." "What do they say?" Lyra read from her screen. Message received. "Assistance coming your way. Do not fight the hostile ships." "Say again, do not fight," Terra command out. Veltar looked at his star charts. Terra was not listed anywhere. But the message had come from coordinates in sector 7742 Delta. When he looked up that sector in his database, he found only a warning: Quarantine Zone, Deathworlder Species. "A Deathworlder species?" he whispered. Every peaceful being in the galaxy knew about Deathworlds. They were planets so dangerous that only the strongest, most violent creatures could survive there. Most civilized species avoided such worlds completely. "Captain, should we answer them?" Lyra asked. Before Veltar could reply, another message arrived from Terra. This one was different. It had ship names and numbers like a military report. 3rd Deep Space Fleet deploying. Admiral Morrison commanding. Estimated arrival 18 hours. Maintain position if possible. Veltar felt cold. Military fleets, admirals, Deathworlders. What kind of help had he called down on his people? Sir, the Krovik ships are sending a message, his pilot announced. The face of War Master Thax appeared on the main screen. He looked like a giant lizard with too many teeth and eyes that glowed red in the dark. Behind him, Veltar could see Krovik soldiers preparing weapons and chains. Little crystal ship, Thax said in his rough voice. Your engines are dying, your weapons never worked. Surrender now, and we will be gentle with your crew. They will make fine workers in our mines. Veltar stood up straight. War Master, we are peaceful traders. We have done nothing to harm you. Or your people, you exist? Thax laughed. That is harm enough. Your people are weak and pretty. You will serve the strong, as is natural. The transmission ended. Veltar looked around his bridge. His crew was scared but trying to be brave. They trusted him to save them somehow. Captain, Lyra said quietly, there is something strange about those Terra coordinates. The computer says that sector was marked as quarantine zone 50 years ago, but there are no records of what lives there. Veltar nodded. In 18 hours, they would find out what kind of beings answered distress calls from a death world. He only hoped his people would survive long enough to meet them. Outside the ship, the Krovik fleet moved closer through the dark space between stars. Admiral Jack Morrison stood in the command center of the Un's Vengeance and watched the tactical display show him everything he needed to know. One small civilian ship, 15 big enemy warships. Simple math, but Jack had been making impossible math work for 30 years. The bridge around him hummed with quiet activity. Human officers moved with calm efficiency at their stations. No panic, no shouting. Just the steady work of people who knew their jobs very well. Message from Earth Command, Admiral, said Lieutenant Karen Blake from her communication station. Mission orders confirmed. Save the civilians, stop the Krovik. Rules of engagement are weapons-free. Jack nodded. The Krovik had made a big mistake 6 months ago when they attacked a human research station. They thought humans were weak because Earth was far from the main trade routes. They learned different when the human response fleet arrived. The battle had been fast and brutal. Human ships tore through Krovik formations like sharks through fish. When it was over, the galaxy finally understood why humans lived in a quarantine zone. It was not to protect the galaxy from humans. It was to protect humans from having to do what they were very good at. Fleet status, Jack ordered. Commander Pete Davis looked up from his tactical station. 47 ships ready for immediate jump, sir. The Lincoln Battle Group, Washington Battle Group, and Churchill Battle Group are all in formation. We can reach the target in 18 hours. Jack studied the enemy ships on his display. Each Krovik vessel was 3 times bigger than human ships. Their crews numbered in the thousands. But humans had learned long ago that size was not everything. Earth's military was built on a simple idea: kill the enemy as fast as possible with the least risk to yourself. Send the fleet movement orders, Jack said, and put me on General Com. The communication system connected him to every ship in the fleet. 47 captains and their crews listened as their admiral spoke. People of the Third Fleet, Jack began. We have a rescue mission. Peaceful aliens are about to be killed or enslaved by Krovik raiders. The enemy has 15 heavy ships. They think their size makes them strong. Today we show them that humans measure strength differently. He paused, looking at the faces of his bridge crew. They were ready. They had been ready since the day they put on the uniform. The Krovik believe that might makes right, that the strong should rule the weak. They are about to learn what happens when they meet something stronger. All ships prepare for a faster-than-light jump. Across the fleet, human warships powered up their drive systems. The Un's Vengeance led the formation, followed by destroyers, cruisers, and support vessels. Each ship was smaller than enemy vessels but packed with weapons that could crack planets. Captain Lisa Park commanded the destroyer Un's Relentless. She had served under Admiral Morrison for 5 years and trusted him completely. Her ship was one of the newest in the fleet, armed with railguns that could fire projectiles at 15% of light speed. "All stations report ready for jump," her officer of the watch announced. "Very well," Lisa replied. She opened a channel to her crew. "This is the captain. We are about to jump into a combat situation. The enemy outnumbers us and outweighs us, but they have never fought humans before. They are about to learn why Earth is called a death world. All hands, battle stations." On the heavy cruiser UNS Washington, Captain Ryan Cole was briefing his weapon officers. "The Krovik use thick armor and strong shields," he explained. "Their ships are built like fortresses. But fortresses have weak points. We find those points and hit them hard." His gunnery officer nodded. "Sir, our plasma cannons are charged and ready. Nuclear torpedoes are loaded in all tubes." "Good. Remember, we are not here to capture enemy ships. We are here to stop them from hurting innocent people. Do not hesitate." Back on the Vengeance, Admiral Morrison received the final reports. From his fleet, every ship was ready for battle. Every crew member knew their job. In 18 hours, the Krovik would learn why most of the galaxy preferred to leave humans alone. "Admiral," said his intelligence officer, Commander Susan Wright, "we have updated information on Krovik tactics. They prefer to surround their targets and use mass fire to overwhelm enemy defenses." "Standard pack hunter behavior," Jack replied. "They work well against prey that cannot fight back." "How do they handle opposition?" "Poorly, sir. Krovik commanders are not trained for equal combat. They expect their enemies to run or surrender quickly." Jack smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. "Then they are in for a surprise. Human military doctrine assumes the enemy will fight back. We plan for the worst case and hope for the best." The jump countdown reached 0. Space around the human fleet twisted and folded as 47 warships disappeared from normal space. They traveled faster than light toward a distant star system where aliens were in danger. While they traveled, Admiral Morrison studied the battle plans his staff had prepared. The Krovik ships were arranged in a standard hunting formation around the damaged civilian vessel. They were confident and relaxed, waiting for their prey to stop running. "They have made this too easy," Jack told his staff. "They are not expecting a real fight. We will hit them hard and fast before they can reorganize." Lieutenant Blake looked up from her station. "Sir, we are receiving more messages from the Zephyrian ship. They are asking about our intentions and our capabilities." "What should I tell them?" Jack thought for a moment. "How do you explain to peaceful people that help is coming from the most violent species in the galaxy?" "Tell them that humans have a saying," he decided. "Nobody picks on the little guy while we are around." "Tell them to stay calm and keep their ship together for 18 more hours." The message went out across space to the damaged Zephyrian vessel. In the deep between stars, 47 human warships continued their journey toward battle. On each ship, crews prepared weapons and checked systems. They loaded ammunition and charged energy banks. They said goodbye to families and recorded messages that might never be sent, but none of them were afraid. They were human, and humans had been fighting impossible odds for millions of years. Today would be just another day at work. The galaxy was about to remember why Earth was quarantined. War Master Thax stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked at the scanning reports with growing confusion. His officers told him that 47 ships were approaching fast, but the readings made no sense. The human vessels were tiny compared to Krovik warships barely larger than escort frigates. "Are you certain these readings are correct?" Thax demanded of his sensor operator. "Yes, War Master, the enemy ships are very small. Our intelligence files say humans are a primitive species from a dangerous world. Perhaps they do not know how to build proper warships." Thax studied the tactical display. 47 ships against his 15. The humans must be desperate or stupid to attack with such small vessels. His own ships were massive dreadnoughts, each one carrying thousands of warriors and enough firepower to destroy cities. "Spread the fleet into hunting formation," he ordered. We will teach these humans why the Krovik rule the void between stars. On the damaged Zephyrian ship, Captain Veltar watched his sensors as space suddenly filled with new contacts. The human fleet appeared without warning. Dropping out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, the human ships looked nothing like any vessel in Veltar's database. Where Zephyrian ships were curved and beautiful, and Krovik ships were massive and threatening, human vessels appeared purely functional. No decorative elements, no artistic touches. Just clean lines and efficient design that somehow looked very dangerous. "Captain," said his communication officer Lyra, "the human admiral is sending a message to the Krovik fleet." The transmission came on all frequencies, clear and calm. "Krovik vessels, this is Admiral Morrison of the United Nations Space Force. You are attacking peaceful civilians without cause. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." War Master Thax laughed when he heard the message. The sound was like rocks grinding together. "These humans think they can threaten us. Look at their tiny ships. My smallest escort vessel is larger than their flagship." He opened a channel back to the human fleet. "Human Admiral, you are outnumbered and outgunned. Your ships are toys compared to Krovik dreadnoughts. Surrender now, and we may let your crews live as slaves." The response came not in words but in weapons fire. The human flagship opened up with its main guns. Veltar had never seen weapons like them. Instead of energy beams or plasma bolts, the human ship fired solid projectiles accelerated to incredible speed. The metal slugs hit the nearest Krovik vessel and punched through its armor like it was paper. Explosions bloomed along the Krovik ship's hull as the projectiles released their enormous kinetic energy. The massive warship shuddered and began to list to one side. Its armor cracked open and atmosphere bleeding into space. Across the human fleet, similar weapons unleashed destruction. Particle beams that burned through metal, missile swarms that moved with impossible precision, and plasma cannons that glowed like small stars. The humans fought with cold efficiency, each shot calculated for maximum damage. War Master Thax felt his confidence crumble as he watched 3 of his heavy cruisers die in the first minute of battle. How are their small ships producing such firepower? He shouted at his officers. "War Master, our intelligence was completely wrong," his sensor operator replied with panic in his voice. "These ships generate more energy than our largest dreadnoughts. Their power readings are beyond our measurement scales." The human fleet moved with perfect coordination. Their ships flowed through space like a school of hunting fish, always appearing exactly where they could do the most damage. They seemed to know what the Krovik ships would do before the Krovik commanders decided to do it. Captain Lisa Park commanded the destroyer Uns Relentless and watched her tactical display with professional satisfaction. The Krovik ships were powerful but slow, designed to overwhelm weaker opponents through brute force. Against human military doctrine of speed, precision, and teamwork, they were helpless. "Target their engines," she ordered her weapons officer. "Disable them first, then go for the kill." Her railguns fired again, sending tungsten slugs racing across space at incredible velocity. The projectiles hit a Krovik cruiser's engine section and tore it apart in a cascade of explosions. On the Zephyrian ship, Captain Veltar watched the battle with growing amazement. His people had always believed that violence was the tool of primitive species, that advanced civilizations naturally grew beyond warfare. The humans were destroying that belief with every devastating attack. The Krovik formation was falling apart. Ships that had seemed invincible minutes before now drifted. Powerless in space, their hulls split open and their crews dead or dying. The humans pressed their attack without mercy, systematically destroying every enemy vessel. "Captain," Lyra reported, "the human admiral is requesting permission to come aboard our ship after the battle." Veltar nodded, though he wondered what kind of beings could wage war with such terrible efficiency while still offering help to strangers. War Master Thax realized that his fleet was doomed. Half his ships were already destroyed or disabled. The humans showed no sign of slowing their attack. Their weapons never seemed to run out of ammunition, and their accuracy was perfect. He tried to retreat, ordering his remaining ships to run for the edge of the system. But human interceptors were already in position, blocking every escape route. A sleek destroyer appeared directly in front of his flagship, its weapons trained on his bridge. "Krovik vessel, this is Captain Ryan Cole of the Uns Defiant," came the transmission. "Surrender immediately or be destroyed. You have 30 seconds to decide." Thax looked around his bridge. Half his crew was dead, the other half wounded. His ship's weapons were offline, his engines damaged. The humans had torn apart his entire fleet in less than 10 minutes. "War Master, what are your orders?" asked his surviving tactical officer. Thax stared at the human ship on his viewscreen. It was so small compared to his massive dreadnought, but it had the power to destroy him completely. He finally understood the terrible mistake his species had made. Humans were not just another technological civilization. They were apex predators who had turned their weapons toward the stars, and now they were awake. "Signal surrender," he whispered in. The space around the Zephyrian ship, the wreckage of the Krovik fleet, drifted silent and cold. The human vessels held their positions, weapons still trained on any ship that might still pose a threat. The battle was over. The galaxy would never be the same. Admiral Jack Morrison stepped onto the bridge of the Zephyrian ship and felt the difference immediately. The air was lighter, with a sweet smell like flowers. The walls glowed with soft colors that changed as he watched. Everything was smooth and curved, as if the ship had grown instead of being built. Captain Veltar waited near the center of the bridge, surrounded by his crew. Zephyrians were smaller than humans, with blue skin that flickered with different patterns. They looked fragile and peaceful, nothing like the warriors who had just saved them. "Captain Veltar," Admiral Morrison said, walking forward with his hands visible and empty. "I am Admiral Jack Morrison. Are your people safe? Do you need medical help or protection?" Veltar studied the human carefully. Morrison looked ordinary, not much different from the peaceful species that filled the galaxy. But his eyes held a constant alertness, like a predator that never fully relaxed. "Admiral Morrison, we are grateful beyond words," Veltar replied. "But I must ask, your military abilities far exceed anything in our records. Why was humanity listed as a quarantine zone?" Morrison exchanged a look with his aide, Commander Susan Wright, who had transported over with him. "Captain, humans come from what the galaxy calls a death world. Our planet tried to kill us in every possible way for millions of years. We survived by becoming very good at killing back." "But you came to help us," Veltar observed. "We did," Morrison confirmed. "Humans have a saying, Captain. Nobody picks on the little guy while we are around. We may be predators, but we choose our prey very carefully." On his communication station, Lyra was monitoring transmissions from across the galaxy. The battle footage, recorded by automated Zephyrian drones, was already spreading through the networks. Military analysts on dozens of worlds were watching human ships destroy a Krovik fleet with methodical precision. "Admiral," Veltar said quietly, "what will happen now?" "The galaxy will know that humans are no longer hidden." Morrison nodded grimly. "That was always going to happen eventually, Captain. Humans are not good at hiding when innocent people are in danger." Commander Wright stepped forward. "Captain Veltar, we would like to offer your people escort to a safe system. We also have medical teams who can help your wounded." "Your medical teams know how to treat Zephyrians?" asked the ship's doctor, an elderly female with skin that glowed pale silver. "Our doctors learn fast," Wright replied with a smile, "and we brought our best." While the humans organized medical aid for the Zephyrian crew, news of the battle spread across the galaxy. On the planet Harmony, the Council of Peaceful Species held an emergency meeting. Representative Clax of the Gentlefolk stood before the assembly. His people looked like walking trees, tall and graceful with bark-like skin. "Fellow beings," he said in his deep, slow voice, "we must discuss what has happened in the Kepler system." The council chamber was filled with representatives from dozens of species. All of them were peaceful, scientific peoples who had built their civilizations on cooperation and understanding. Violence was something they studied in history books, not something they practiced. "The humans have revealed themselves," continued Clax. The footage shows military capabilities far beyond anything we understood. Their quarantine was not for our protection, but for theirs. A representative of the Crystal Singers, beings made of living mineral, spoke next. The humans destroyed 15 Krovic dreadnoughts in minutes. Their ships are small but incredibly deadly. What does this mean for galactic peace? It means, said a delegate from the Harmony Builders, that there is finally someone who can stand up to species like the Krovic. The debate continued for hours. Some species were frightened by human capabilities. Others were hopeful that the galaxy's bullies might finally face consequences for their actions. Meanwhile, on the mining world of Korath Prime, the news was received very differently. The miners had suffered under Krovic raids for decades. Their families had been taken as slaves, their children sold to work in dangerous factories. Old Henrik, the leader of the miners' union, called his people together in the main hall. "Friends," he said, his voice shaking with emotion, "I have news from the stars. The Krovic fleet that has terrorized us for so long is gone, destroyed by beings called humans." The crowd was silent at first, unable to believe what they heard. Then someone in the back shouted, "Are we free?" "The humans sent a message," Henrik continued. "They say that slavers and raiders are no longer welcome in this part of the galaxy. They say they will be watching." The celebration that followed could be heard across the mining colony. For the first time in decades, the people of Korath Prime went to sleep without fear, back on the Eon's vengeance. Admiral Morrison sat in his quarters writing his report to Earth Command. The battle had been successful, but the consequences were just beginning. "Mission completed," he typed. "Krovic threat eliminated, civilians evacuated safely. However, our existence is now known throughout the galaxy. Request instructions for next phase of operations." The response from Earth came quickly. "Understood, Admiral. New orders being prepared. Intelligence reports indicate multiple distress calls are already being received through diplomatic channels. The refugee networks are spreading word that someone finally stood up to the bullies." Morrison allowed himself a tired smile. Humanity had tried to stay hidden, hoping to avoid the galaxy's conflicts. But humans had never been good at watching innocents suffer while they did nothing. A knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. "Come in." Commander Wright entered with a datapad. "Sir, we are receiving 17 new distress calls. Mining colonies under attack, civilian ships being raided, entire systems being threatened by various hostile species." 17? Morrison asked. "And more coming in every hour?" "Word is spreading that humans will help anyone who asks." Morrison stood and walked to his window, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, peaceful beings were in danger. Somewhere else, bullies thought they could take whatever they wanted from the weak. "Signal the fleet," he ordered. "We have work to do." In the depths of space, 47 human warships began receiving new coordinates. Behind them, Earth's shipyards worked around the clock, building more ships and training more crews. The galaxy's apex predators were fully awake now, and they had found their purpose. 6 months after the battle at Kepler 442, the galaxy was a very different place. Admiral Jack Morrison stood on the observation deck of Terra Station, humanity's first major base outside the solar system, and watched supply ships arrive from Earth every day. The station was huge, built in the empty space between two dead planets. Its construction bays worked around the clock, building new warships to replace the ones scattered across dozens of star systems. Every day brought more calls for help, and every day human fleets responded. "Admiral," said Captain Lisa Park, joining him at the window. Her destroyer, the Uns Relentless, was docked nearby for repairs after a fight with Savage Claw pirates. "The morning briefing is ready." Morrison nodded and followed her to the command center. The main holographic display showed the local galactic sector with colored dots marking human fleet positions. There were a lot more dots than there had been 6 months ago. "Status report," Morrison requested. Commander Pete Davis stood at the tactical station. 43 active operations, sir. The second fleet is escorting gentle folk traders through the Nerix Passage. The fifth fleet just finished clearing raiders out of the astral mining region. The Seventh Fleet is responding to distress calls near the Thornian border. Morrison studied the display. Human ships were everywhere now, protecting trade routes, escorting civilian vessels, and hunting down pirates and slavers. It was exactly what he had expected would happen. "Any word from the Krovic hegemony?" he asked. "Yes, sir," replied Commander Susan Wright from the intelligence station. Their high command sent another diplomatic message. "They want to negotiate a treaty?" Morrison almost smiled. The Krovic had learned their lesson quickly after losing 3 more fleets to human forces. Now they wanted to talk instead of fight. "Tell them the same thing we told them last time," Morrison said. "Stop raiding civilian ships, stop taking slaves, and we will consider talking. Until then, any Krovic ship that attacks innocent people will be destroyed." Across the galaxy, the effects of human intervention were being felt everywhere. On the peaceful world of New Harmony, the Council of Worlds was meeting to discuss the new galactic situation. Representative Clax of the Gentlefolk addressed the assembly. "My friends, we must accept that everything has changed. Trade routes that were too dangerous to use for decades are now safe. Pirates and raiders flee at the first sign of human ships. But at what cost?" asked the representative from the Crystal. "Singers, the humans are warriors. How long before they decide to conquer instead of protect?" An elderly delegate from the Wisdom Keepers stood slowly. "I have studied the humans carefully for these past months. They ask for nothing in return. For their protection? No tribute, no territory, no resources. They simply fight those who prey on the innocent." The debate continued, but the results were already clear. Trade was growing, colonies were expanding, and peaceful species were building things they had never dared to build before. Fear was being replaced by hope across hundreds of worlds on Earth. President Maria Santos stood in the United Nations building and addressed the assembled leaders of humanity. Behind her, a massive screen showed the galactic map with human fleet. Positions marked in blue. "My fellow humans," she began, "6 months ago we revealed ourselves to the galaxy. Since then, our fleets have fought in 47 battles, destroyed 11 pirate organizations, and saved millions of innocent lives." The assembly listened carefully. Every nation on Earth had contributed ships and crews to the galactic fleet. It was the largest cooperative effort in human history. "But we face challenges," Santos continued. "Our shipyards are working at maximum capacity. Our crews are stretched thin across dozens of systems, and every day brings new calls for help." General William Rodriguez, head of the United Earth Defense Force, stood to speak. "Madam President, our forces are performing excellently. Casualties. Our minimal mission success rate is 100%. The galaxy is learning that humans keep their promises." "What about the long term?" asked President Chun of the Asian Federation. "Can we maintain this level of operations indefinitely?" "We are already seeing positive changes," replied Admiral Morrison, appearing via holographic link from Terra Station. "Peaceful species are starting to work together for mutual defense. They are learning from our tactics and strategies. Eventually, they may be able to protect themselves." Back at Terra Station, Morrison was interrupted by an urgent communication from Captain Ryan Cole, commanding the heavy cruiser UNS Washington. "Admiral, we have a situation in the Outer Rim. A species called the Void Hunters has been attacking isolated colonies. They are different from anything we have fought before." Morrison frowned. "How different?" "They use living ships, sir. Biological. Vessels that can heal damage and adapt to weapons. 3 peaceful species have already asked for human assistance." "How many ships do they have?" "Unknown, sir. But they operate in swarms of hundreds. Intelligence suggests they may be from outside our galaxy entirely." Morrison considered this new threat. Humanity had dealt with raiders, pirates, and bullies. But an invasion from unknown aliens was something else entirely. "Assemble the first fleet," he ordered. "We are going to introduce these Void Hunters to human hospitality." 1 week later, the largest human fleet ever assembled jumped toward the Outer Rim, 120 warships, led by Admiral Morrison himself aboard the new flagship Ian's Ease. Humanity's will dot as they traveled through faster-than-light space. Toward the unknown enemy, Morrison thought about how much had changed. Humanity had gone from a hidden species to the galaxy's protectors in just 6 months. They had saved countless lives and brought peace to dozens of systems, but the galaxy was a big place, full of dangers that had yet to reveal themselves. The Void Hunters were just the latest threat, and certainly not the last. Morrison opened a communication channel to his fleet. "People of the First Fleet," he said, "we are heading toward a new enemy. One that threatens not just individual colonies, but entire species. They think they can invade our galaxy and take whatever they want?" He paused, looking at the faces of his crew on the bridge around him. "They are about to learn that this galaxy is under human protection now, and humans do not give up what they are sworn to defend." The fleet continued toward the outer rim, where strange ships from beyond the stars waited in the dark between worlds. Behind them, across hundreds of systems, peaceful beings looked up at their night skies and felt safe. For the first time in generations, humanity had found its place in the galaxy, and the galaxy would never be the same.